So as most of you know, it did get confirmed that the LR Goku Black will be getting his EZA for Worldwide Download Celebration 2023. Whether that means it's going to be for Part 3 or whether that means maybe there's going to be a little something extra after Part 3, I don't really know. But you can see Global did, have a little oopsie moment, and they did put the banner, the EZA banner for the LR Goku Black. So again, we could assume we would be getting this during Worldwide Download Celebration because obviously it does fit the theme. Now, a lot of people are worried and happy about this because, of course, we did just have the EZA for the Transforming Goku Black, and he was a little rough, to say the least. His EZA wasn't that amazing, so some people are thinking this guy is going to get the same treatment. Now, let me just say, I had very high hopes for the Transforming Goku Black. The skeleton for his EZA was very, very good. He was a support, he stacked defense, he had the 50% chance to crit, and he had some solid foundations just for an EZA. But I think the same thing really applies to this guy. He has a very good skeleton for his EZA. Now, whether that's a good or bad thing, I mean, you make of that what you want, because he's got a good skeleton for an EZA, but so do the Transforming Goku Black. So, I don't know, man. I don't really know how they're going to handle this guy's EZA. I hope they make him very good, but I do want to give my thoughts on what they could do to make him good. So let me know in the comments what you want to see change with this kit for his EZA. And yeah, I guess we can go and get right into it. So starting off with his leader skill, it is Future Saga category Ki +4, HP and attack and defense plus 130%. Obviously, this is going to go to 150%. And then the extreme int type, like part of his leader skill, is going to go to 120%. It's just typically what they do with these EZAs. I don't like it at all. This definitely needs to go up to 170% at least, because then him leading Future Saga for 4 Ki and then a 170% buff, that could actually be pretty useful. But because it's only going to 150%, it really doesn't matter. So, kind of a bad leader skill, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. There's definitely better Future Saga leads than this guy anyway. So, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. And then his super attack effects right now is that he's getting 50% defense on both his 12 and 18 Ki super, and then obviously colossal damage here, and then mega colossal damage down here. So, with his EZA, this really doesn't need to change. They could honestly just keep it if they want. I think this is already a really good super attack effect. Maybe if they really want to just, be extra, just throw a little something in here. They could give him 50% attack and defense for 1 turn. And then maybe if they want to give him built-in additionals as well, that could go well with that, because then obviously the more supers you do in a rotation, the higher your damage is going to go, and then also your defense, because you're getting 50% attack and defense for 1 turn. Now, I guess they could give him, like, lower defense right here, lower attack and defense right here. Little stuff like that, I really don't care about. I mean, he's getting defense on super, and at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, honestly. So, I'm definitely okay with his super attacks, even now. So they don't got to do a whole lot to this. Like I said, just put 50% attack here, and then maybe lower defense or whatever, just to make it look better, right? And then for his passive, right now he gets 66% attack and defense, and then he gets another 6% attack each time Ki raises by 1, and then that is up to 120%. So this is one of the only units that has this mechanic. The only other one I could think of, I guess we can pull him up really quick, is the Physical Angel Vegeta. But surprisingly enough, they haven't really done this in a while. Like, it's only these 2 units that have this sort of mechanic where they get extra Ki, like every time Ki raises by 1. Where is he? Yeah, he's right here. So they kind of stopped doing it. I think they did it with the Goku Black, and then they did it with this guy, and then they were like, all right, yeah, we don't really like this mechanic. So I don't really know how they're going to handle this, because I don't think there's been an EZA for a unit that has this mechanic, like, ever in the past before. So it's going to be kind of a new thing, but what I'm assuming is going to happen is they just make this, like, 10% attack or 10% attack and defense up to, again, 120%. If they want to make it something like 20%, that'd be nice as well. It'd be much easier to get this full buff. But again, we haven't seen an EZA for a unit that has a mechanic like this, so we don't really know how they're going to handle it. And then he also gets 2 Ki with every final blow delivered, up to 6, and then he's recovering 6% HP at the end of a turn in which an attack was received. So his start of turn attack and defense buff, that's definitely something that needs to be changed. 66%. I mean, it's not horrible for summonable LR, because of course he has summonable LR stats, but that's still not good enough in today's standards. So I would say this probably should go up to maybe 166%, just to make him somewhat good start of turn, because 166% is a pretty good defensive buff for this guy's start of turn, because again, he's a summonable LR. So that should cover it in terms of the start of turn buff. And then, like I mentioned, maybe make this 20% attack or like 15% attack and defense every time Ki raises by 1, up to 120%. And then he gets 2 Ki with every final blow delivered. I really hate the final blow mechanics. I don't know. I think it's so tedious to get. Most units that have it, I'm always thinking like, okay, I'm probably not going to get it during this fight. Like the STR Goku Black. He gets 50% attack and defense when you deliver a final blow. That's a very, very important buff. So then if you miss out on that, he goes from being able to not tank in some scenarios to being able to tank. So like missing out on it is pretty detrimental. So the mechanic itself just kind of sucks. I mean, if you're going in like a legendary Goku event, if you're going in, well, you know, any event that has like 6 phases or something like that, you know, Infinite History, maybe Boss Rush, a Dokkan event, I mean, it could be somewhat useful and you'll probably end up getting it in the fight. But most red zone stages now, I mean, maybe they're going to like 3 phases, but most of the time it's like 2. So it's very difficult to get with them. So I hope they kind of just make this the same. I don't want his passive just to revolve around him getting a final blow. Like, the extra key is nice, but it's not crucial to get whatsoever. You're still going to be able to get like somewhat good key with this guy even without this built up. But then when you get it, obviously it makes it a little better. So what I would like for them to do is just make it 3 key with every final blow delivered up to maybe like 9, and then just leave it at that. I know some people are going to be like, oh, okay, well then final blows are so hard to get. When you do get it, you should get a very good buff. But then if that ends up happening, then his performance without that buff is going to be kind of lacking. And then, like we mentioned, getting final blows are very difficult. So I'd rather him just have a little buff with the key, and then all the other attack and defense buffs, additionals, all that is going to be just already built into his kit. And then also he is recovering the 6% HP at the end of a turn in which an attack was received. So actually, I can pull this up really quick. You want to know one unit that recovers HP that got a very, very good buff during the celebration? This guy right here. So before his Easy A, he is recovering 7% HP when HP is 70% or less. So I mean, that's solid, right? You know, 7% HP. I mean, it's not crazy, but whatever, it's nice. And then after his Easy A, look what they did here. They gave him 10% HP recovery at the start of a turn, and then 20% at the end of a turn. So in total, he's recovering 30% HP. So they went from 7% to 30%. That's a pretty substantial jump. So I have very high expectations for this right here. I mean, this could go up to 15%, 20%, maybe even just straight up 30%, which would be really crazy. So basically, all you got to do is just receive an attack, and then at the end of the turn, just get a bunch of HP. If they want to get rid of you having to receive an attack, that'd be nice. It'd just be easier to get this. But what I think is most likely going to happen is they just make this like 20%, and then you still have to receive an attack to get this at the end of the turn. And then also, just to talk about some other things that could be implemented in his kit, because obviously this is a very short passive. You know, he released during the 5th year anniversary, so he's a pretty old unit. But like I mentioned earlier, some additionals would be nice. It would let him benefit from getting defense on super, and then potentially, like I said, if he gets attack on super as well, like 50% attack and defense, then those additionals would just help his stats get higher and higher throughout the rotation as, you know, you're doing more supers in that turn. And then also giving him some guard, damage reduction, dodge. I hate to be that guy who's always like, oh no, he's got to have guard, damage reduction, dodge. But dude, to be good in this meta, you really do need that. Like, look at the int transforming Goku Black. He doesn't have any of that, and that's kind of why he's weak. Like, if he had guard for the first couple turns, he'd be really good. I guess we can just go ahead and pull him up right here. We're already talking about him. He would be very good if he had guard just for the first 3 turns or something like that, because then it gives him the ability to build up, stack up, or whatever. But because this guy isn't stacking, I don't know, I feel like he should probably just have guard always in his kit. Not for like the first couple turns. Maybe he just has like, you know, a 70% chance to guard after he receives an attack. Or maybe a 70% chance to guard after you do 4 supers. Something like that. I don't know, I'm just spitballing there. But some form of guard, damage reduction, or dodge I think is kind of needed. Because you'll notice the difference between units that don't have those mechanics and then that do have those mechanics. It's night and day. Like, the units that have guard age way better than units that don't. So I think some sort of defensive mechanic like that would be very, very good for this guy, and it's almost necessary for him to be good. Because, dude, events, they're doing a lot of damage. We just had the new stages for the Mortal Will and Divine Wrath event. He's hitting for 2.3 million on his super attack. So I think it's safe to say most units now are probably going to have guard, damage reduction, dodge, or something, like insanely high stats, so then they can actually tank. And then that's why nobody likes this guy's Easy A, because he doesn't have that. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it with this guy. Just buff what he already has, and then give him, again, guard, damage reduction, dodge, maybe some additionals, and then he could be very good. And then also, there is this rage down here, so it's not guaranteed that they're going to change this condition. In fact, I would expect them not to change it. Just because typically, like, active skills, rage conditions, they don't really change with Easy A's. I mean, they've done it before with this guy that just got his Easy A. It did change, and they made it a little bit easier. You can see before his Easy A, you transformed when HP was 80% or above, starting from the 6th turn from start of battle. and then now they changed it to when HP is 60% or above, starting from the 4th turn from start of battle. So there is potential they could change this, but just don't count on it, just so you're not disappointed or anything. And then if they do change it, they're probably going to go a very similar route that they did with this guy, just make it a lower HP restriction, and then they're probably going to change it from turn 6 to turn 4. So I guess that's pretty good. But it's a rage mode. It's not like crucial to this guy's kit, but it is really nice that he has that. So I guess on that note, we can go and talk about this. Now, the way they designed his rage mode, I think is really good. I've said this in videos in the past, but with rage units, or, you know, giant form units, whatever you want to call it, I like two things. I like it when they have built-in ki, and then they have built-in damage. And you can see right here, this guy has both of that. He's got 1 ki per ki sphere obtained, and then he gets attacks effective against all types. So maybe if they want to make this 2 ki per ki sphere obtained, obviously they'd keep this, and then maybe give him an additional that has a medium chance of becoming a super, or a 50% chance of critting or something like that, just to make it to where he can do more damage and he gets ki easier. But as a baseline, this is really good, because like I said, those are the 2 things you really want with these giant form units, and this guy has both of those. So already a very good skeleton in terms of his rage mode. And then, I mean, like we already talked about, you know, just give him some basic stuff here, and then he could be very good. So I guess that pretty much has been the video. Let me know what you guys are thinking of, you know, the things I said and the suggestions I gave for this guy's Easy A. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that was lame. You said, like, guard, damage reduction, dodge. Again, man, I know it's kind of boring because most good units have that, but it's just kind of how we are in Dokkan right now. You got to have guard, damage reduction, dodge to be good defensively. It sucks, but I don't know, it's kind of Dokkan's fault. They're not very unique in terms of designing units. But once again, that has been the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.